Hello everyone, I hope you're all having a good December so far. 2023 is wrapping itself up, and there's a new year upon us. Though before we get to the year-end list, I do have a few more movies that I'm eager to talk about. So, let's get right down to it. We have one more sequel that just debuted this year on Netflix, and this one happens to be one I was very curious about since its reveal all the way back in 2018. Chicken Run: Dawn of the Nugget, the latest film to come out from the fine folks at Aardman back in the UK. I was still in high school when this was revealed, and after 5 years of waiting, it's finally arrived. And as I said, I was super curious on how they would follow it up, especially considering how amazing the original Chicken Run is. And it's about as old as me. And I mean, literally as old as me. It came out the day before I was born. As I'm sure you all know, Aardman made their feature-length film debut back in the year 2000 with Chicken Run. They had already gotten some attention by then thanks to their work on commercials, music videos, notably Peter Gabriel's famous video for Sledgehammer, and of course the Wallace and Gromit shorts. It wasn't until Chicken Run when they finally had their big chance to launch into feature films. A sort of spoof on The Great Escape, it followed a group of chickens led by their leader Ginger, trying desperately to escape an egg farm led by the villainous Mrs. Tweety, who, sick of the minuscule profits, plans to turn the egg business on her farm into a chicken buy business. And with the help of an American rooster escaped from the circus named Rocky, the chickens have to figure out how to get out of the farm, even if it takes learning to fly out before the time runs out. So I'll just say this right out of the gate before I go any further. Chicken Run is one of my all-time favorite animated films. This movie is a masterpiece in my eyes. It really plays to the strengths of Aardman on all cylinders with its witty and clever story, inventive stop-motion animation, and a hilarious cast of characters. Everything about this film works, and after 23 years, it's still one of the freshest animated films I've ever seen. There have been many great stop-motion animation films that have come out over the years, but none of them have been able to top this film in my eyes. It's one of the best animated films of the 2000s, and easily one of the best animated films ever made. I adore this film so much. And for years, I assumed that would be it for the Feathered Friends. Aardman's original partner DreamWorks wanted a sequel to be made right after they finished the film, but Aardman, having just completed the story, didn't know where to take it next, and turned down the idea, leaving the chickens in only one film. They still occasionally popped up in places. Ginger appeared in a Google Hangout ad once with other Aardman characters, but I figured the film would be left as a standalone, and I was totally fine with that. So you can imagine my surprise when Aardman announced Dawn of the Nugget a few years ago. How do you continue the story with Ginger and the others? They escaped the Tweety farm and are now living a happy life on the bird sanctuary. I didn't know how they could continue it. But still, I was excited for it due to how much I adore the first film, and I went in seeing what new magic the fine wizards at Aardman could bring to the table. I'm always open for a sequel if the people who make it can figure out how to make a good continuation. I said this already in my review for Across the Spider-Verse. I'm not expecting a sequel to be better than the original. I'm just hoping it's a noteworthy addition to it that can continue its story quite well and also expand its characters quite well. And Chicken Run: Dawn of the Nugget does exactly that. This was a really fun sequel. Let me just say this right now. This isn't as good as the original, and I knew that going into it. I had a feeling that there was no way this was going to be able to top the original, and I can confirm that it doesn't. But I can't deny that it's still a really good sequel and another fun film from Aardman. I can easily say that this is a sequel that does justice to the original film. When we last left our heroes, Ginger and the other chickens had built an air crate and flew away from the Tweety farm with the American rooster Rocky and made a new free life on a bird sanctuary island. Some time has passed, and Ginger, played by Tandaway Newton, and Rocky, played by Zachary Levi, have now become parents to a baby girl named Molly, played by Bella Ramsey, making their happy lives even happier. Molly soon grows up fast and becomes fascinated with life on the mainland, although Ginger is reluctant to return due to her experience on the Tweety farm. Fed up with being stuck on the island, and after seeing some trucks on the other side, Molly goes across the water where she meets another chicken named Frizzle, played by Josie Sedgwick Davies, whom tells her of a happy place where chickens get to be in a bucket. The two are soon captured, much to Ginger's dismay, and taken to a very secure fried chicken factory. Hoping to save their daughter, Ginger and Rocky, as well as their friends, set up on a mission to get into the factory and get Molly out before she's turned into fried chicken by a crazy scientist, Dr. Fry, played by Nick Mohammed, and his new wife, Mrs. Tweedy herself, played by Miranda Richardson. So as I said in the intro, the original Chicken Run is one of my all-time favorite animated films, and I knew going into this sequel that it was probably not going to live up to it. And yes, it isn't as amazing as its predecessor, but it's still a ton of fun overall, and it's a sequel that I think works. The story of the film isn't quite as grand as its predecessor, though to be fair, that one really went all out, and even director Sam Fell will agree to that. The last film had a lot of massive set pieces to it, like the pie machine escape, and the grand finale with the air crate, and it would have taken a lot to figure out how to top it. Even though this film's set pieces aren't nearly as grand, and the film is a bit smaller size compared to it, I still can't deny that it does work and continues the story quite nicely. It makes sense that after the first film, Ginger would want to try to live a quieter life after the trauma of being on the Tweety farm, and the only way she would return was if something went badly wrong, and having to go on a rescue mission makes perfect sense. The rescue mission plot is one that works perfectly for a second film. I mean, Pixar did that with Toy Story 2. And Aardman makes great use of that and is able to perfectly balance out the different plot threads between the characters, as even when they get to the factory, Ginger and Rocky are separated and both have to figure out how to get to Molly on their own, while Molly has to figure out how to get out of the factory with Frizzle. Plus, the film makes great use of its set pieces, including a really fun one where the group is stuck in a corn silo. I also really like how this film pays tribute to another genre of film. While the first film clearly has a World War II atmosphere to it, and obviously is paying homage to prison escape films like The Great Escape, this sequel pays more tribute to 60s spy films and shows like Mission Impossible and James Bond, and it's really a perfect homage. Though the thing that really makes this story work is the humor, because, man, this film is hilarious. Aardman always excels with their humor, and this film is no exception, as there are a lot of hilarious moments within the film, particularly in the lab where the chickens are kept with these strange collars. It's so morbid and dark, but I just found it so funny. And it also has a lot of great slapstick and some hilarious character moments. Babs, played again by Jane Horrocks, has a lot of great lines once again.
It's go time.
It's all right. I went before we left.
The other big benefit of the film is the animation, which, to be expected, is top-notch. I'm always amazed at how good Aardman's stop motion looks, and director Sam Fell and his team really knew how to up their game with the sequel. There's a lot of innovation, and I could really see them up the stakes with more characters and grander sets. I particularly love the set of the chicken's home on the island. We only got a brief glimpse of what it was like in the first film, and here we got to see it expanded further, and it's really a grand paradise. And again, the set pieces really get to shine with their magic, particularly in the scene where Molly and Frizzle entered the dreaded factory, and it was a lot of fun, even if, again, it's not as grand as the original. As for the characters, I really liked how well they were expanded. Ginger once again really works as the brave heroine, and I do love the touches they added with her having PTSD from her experience on the chicken farm. Sometimes the overprotective parent cliche can really be annoying, but it actually works here because we know for a fact that she's been through and seen a lot, and I could tell that she does mean the best for Molly and wants to keep her safe from the horrors of the world. And I love the lesson she has to learn that trying to keep your children fully sheltered is a bad idea, as well as that you need to take risks. It's a great message for parents. Molly is also pretty fun, and I totally believe her being Ginger and Rocky's daughter. She has a lot of that same energy and determination her mother has, as well as the brains to figure out that something is not right with the factory she and Frizzle are in. And I do think she has a good arc about realizing that the world is a dangerous place and that it's okay to be scared. Plus, Bella Ramsey is just delightful, as they usually are. I also kind of like how Rocky tries to put on a braver face in this film and wanting to live up to his name despite him only being a circus performer and not being one of the smartest of the pack. It was pretty funny. And Ginger's friends all have their moments to shine as well. Babs having some great lines, and Fowler having a hilarious joke where he abhors a snail with his life story. But with every story, you of course have a villain. So, let's get to talking about Mrs. Tweedy. I was really surprised that the trailers revealed that she was coming back for this new film. Not just because I wasn't prepared for them to reveal it, though in hindsight I wish they didn't. It would have been much better if they saved that as a surprise. But also unexpected because I didn't know how they could bring her back. I mean, this is what happened to her in the last film. Yeah, so I initially thought that would be the end of her. But nope, she's back. It's never explained how, but I'm kind of glad they didn't because it's pretty funny to wonder. And honestly, I think she works once again as the villain because there was no way Aardman would have been able to top her. In the original film, she was really a force to be reckoned with and was very cunning and crazy. And here, she's really become even more crazy, and she's basically become a Bond villain. And I actually really love it. Miranda Richardson really hams it up here, and she has some pretty hilarious moments. I kind of love how, despite her being pretty smart, she still has terrible taste in men and marries complete idiots only for their money. Though, speaking of Richardson, this does bring me to one more point that I ought to bring up, and that's that this film had some recasting. A few actors from the first film don't return, and most of them I'm fine with. David Bradley is perfect replacing the late Benjamin Withrow as Fowler. Ramesh Ranganthan and Daniel Mays are fine taking over Timothy Spall and Phil Daniels as Nick and Fetcher. And even Zachary Levi replacing Mel Gibson as Rocky is something I'm more than fine with, since we obviously don't need Mel Gibson back. However, I'm not happy with one choice of recasting. And that's unfortunately Ginger herself. In the original film, Ginger was played by Julia Sawalha, and she owned that role. She made Ginger smart, sweet, and determined, and it made her an excellent hero worth rooting for. And Sawalha was more than happy to return to the sequel, and it wouldn't have been a problem like it would have been if they brought back Gibson. However, Aardman decided not to bring her back because they thought she was too old for the role, and replaced her with Thandoi Newton. Sawalha was pretty upset with this, saying her voice hasn't shown much age since 2000, and even recorded a video that proved it in 2020.
I wasn't on holiday, Babs. I was in solitary confinement.
I wasn't on holiday, Babs. I was in solitary confinement.
And after seeing the film, yeah, I have to take Julia's side. This was very much a case of ageism. Newton's voice doesn't fully fit for Ginger. She's not bad in the film, she's fine, but it's just not the same. And let me make this clear, I'm not angry at Newton. She was doing the best with what she had. This is entirely on Aardman. And to make things worse, not only did they bring most of Sawalha's former cast members back, like Imelda Staunton, Jane Horrocks, and even Miranda Richardson, whom are all older than her, some by several years, they actually also showed archival footage from the first film in this sequel that features Sawalha's voice and only proves that Newton's voice isn't anywhere close to hers. Yeah, Aardman has no excuse for this. It was a bad decision, and I really think they should have brought her back as Ginger. Though, in the end, despite my gripes, I still think Chicken Run Dawn of the Nugget is a very fun sequel overall, and a worthy continuation to its predecessor. While its story and scale aren't as grand as the first film, and Thandoi Newton doesn't fully fit as Ginger, I still think the film works overall due to its hilarious comedy and fun set pieces, excellent stop-motion animation, and great expansion of the old characters and fun new ones to boot. Even if it's not a fantastic sequel, it's still a fun continuation, and I do recommend it, especially if you enjoyed the first film. If there was an animated franchise film I could best compare Dawn of the Nugget to, it's probably Monsters University. Even though that film was a prequel, it was also coming off the heels of its perfect predecessor, Monsters Inc., and while it obviously knew it wasn't going to top that, it still felt like a very fun and good expansion upon what was previously established, and was able to stand on its own quite well. And this sequel does that too. So with that said, I'm going to give Chicken Run Dawn of the Nugget an 8. It's not the very best sequel out there, but it's one that's still fun and does the original right. The original Chicken Run is still one of my all-time favorite animated films. Top 5, honestly. And even if Aardman's new sequel doesn't quite fully match that perfection, it still is a well-made film without a doubt. And after 23 years, those chickens still have some cleverness and wit to them.
Oh.